The stars looked different from the bridge of the Defiance. Captain Elena Vasquez had been staring at them for 3 hours now, watching the empty space ahead of her ship. But she knew the space was not really empty. Somewhere out there, hidden, behind the fourth planet of this system, waited the largest alien fleet humanity had ever faced. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of computers and life support systems. Her crew worked at their stations without talking. They all knew what was coming. In 2 hours, they would drop out of stealth mode and face 300 enemy ships. 300 ships against one. Elena touched the scar on her left cheek, a habit she had picked up during the Solar Wars. The scar came from a piece of metal that had cut her face when the pirates destroyed her first command. She was only 25. Then, just a junior officer on a patrol ship. Now she was 42 and captain of the most advanced warship Earth had ever built. The Defiance did not look like much from the outside. Its hull was dark gray metal, covered in scratches and burn, marks from previous battles. It was only 800 meters long, smaller than most civilian transport ships. But Elena knew what was hidden inside that ordinary hull. She knew about the weapons that no alien had ever seen before. She knew about the armor that had been tested against every known energy weapon in the galaxy. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chun walked up to Elena's command chair. Sarah was the ship's weapons officer, a small woman with quick hands and faster reflexes. She had served with Elena for 6 years, ever since the Centauri campaign. Captain, we're getting the first long-range scans of the enemy fleet, Sarah sighed quietly. She handed Elena a datapad with the sensor readings. Elena looked at the numbers and felt her stomach tighten. The alien ships were massive. The smallest ones were twice the size of the Defiance. The largest was over 3 kilometers long, a living ship that pulsed with green light along its organic hull. These were Kitharan vessels, grown rather than built, powered by biological reactors that could generate incredible amounts of energy. How many civilians are still down on the planet? Elena asked. Approximately 50,000 human colonists, Sarah replied. The Kitharans have been using them as slave labor in the mining operations for 8 months now. Elena nodded. She had read the reports. The Kitharans had arrived at Kepler 438b without warning, claiming the planet belonged to their empire. When the human colonists refused to leave, the aliens had simply taken them prisoner. The galactic community had done nothing. Most alien species considered humans too primitive to deserve protection under galactic law. That was about to change. Time to weapons range? Elena asked. 47 minutes at current speed, Sarah answered. Elena stood up from her chair and walked to the main view screen. The screen showed the planet Kepler 438b, a brown and green world rich with rare metals. The colonists had been mining those metals to trade with other human worlds. Now the Kitharans were forcing them to dig up the same metals to fuel the alien war machine. Behind Elena, the bridge crew continued their preparations. Chief Engineer Martinez was running final checks on the reactor systems. Navigation Officer Park was calculating firing solutions for the main weapons. Communications Officer Williams was monitoring alien radio signals, listening to the enemy fleet's chatter. Elena walked over to Williams' station. A young officer was wearing headphones. His face focused as he listened to the alien voices. "What are they saying?" Elena asked. Williams looked up. "They're laughing, Captain. They think we're either crazy or stupid for approaching with just one ship. The alien admiral keeps making jokes about how quickly they'll destroy us." Elena almost smiled. The Kitharans had no idea what they were facing. For 200 years, humanity had been developing weapons in isolation, cut off from the rest of the galaxy. While other species had spent thousands of years perfecting energy weapons and plasma cannons, humans had gone in a different direction. They had perfected the art of throwing things very, very fast. The door to the bridge opened, and Dr. James Foster walked in. Foster was the ship's science officer, but he was also something else. He was one of the designers of the Defiance's weapon systems. He had spent 10 years developing the technologies that were about to shock the galaxy. "Captain, all weapon systems are showing green," Foster reported. "The railgun is charged and ready. Missile batteries are loaded. Point defense systems are online." "How are our stealth systems holding up?" Elena asked. "Perfect so far. The Kitherans can see us coming, but they can't get detailed scans of our hull. They have no idea what we're really carrying." Elena looked around at her crew. These were the best soldiers humanity had to offer. Most of them had fought in the Solar Wars against the Mars Liberation Front. Others had served in the asteroid mining conflicts. All of them had volunteered for this mission, knowing it was probably a one-way trip. The Defiance had been built in secret at the Luna shipyards. Only a dozen people in the government knew about its true capabilities. The ship was humanity's answer to a galaxy that refused to take them seriously. It was proof that sometimes the best weapon was the one nobody saw coming. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Kitheran fleet," Williams announced. "Put it on the main screen," Elena ordered. The view screen changed to show the face of an alien admiral. The Kitheran looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect, with 4 eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. Its skin was green and covered in small scales that seemed to move on their own. "Primitive human vessel," the alien spoke in heavily accented English. "You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Your species is not recognized under galactic law. You have no right to interfere with Kitheran operations." Elena stared at the alien face for a moment. Then she reached over and turned off the transmission without saying a word. "No response, Captain?" Sarah asked. "Our response will come soon enough," Elena replied. The Defiance continued moving toward the enemy fleet, its engines pushing it through space at exactly the speed Elena had planned. Not too fast, not too slow. She wanted the aliens to see them coming. She wanted them to have time to position their ships, to charge their weapons, to prepare for what they thought would be an easy victory. Elena returned to her command chair and activated her personal communicator. She opened a channel to Earth, knowing it would take 20 minutes for her message to reach home. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran Warship Defiance. We are about to engage a superior enemy force in defense of human civilians. If we fail today, the galaxy will continue to see humanity as weak and primitive. If we succeed, everything changes. Either way, Earth should know that we faced this enemy with pride and determination. Defiance out." She closed the channel and looked at the countdown timer on her display. 23 minutes to weapons range. 23 minutes until the galaxy learned what humans could really do when pushed too far. The Defiance moved silently through space, carrying the hopes and anger of an entire species toward a battle that would change the course of galactic history. Admiral Zekthus stood in the command center of his flagship, the Devourer of Stars. The massive bioship pulsed with life around him, its living walls breathing slowly as organic systems processed information from across the fleet. Through the transparent viewing membrane that served as a window, he could see the approaching human vessel. Growing larger against the black of space, the little ship looked pathetic compared to his magnificent fleet. Zekthus had commanded Kitheran forces for over 60 standard years, conquering 12 different species for the glory of the hegemony. He had never seen such a small vessel dare to challenge such overwhelming odds. Either these humans were incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. He suspected it was the latter. "Fleet Commander," his communications officer called out, her voice carrying the musical tones of their species. "The human vessel continues to approach. They have not responded to our surrender demand. Zekthis clicked his mandibles together in amusement. Perhaps they do not understand our language properly. These primitives have only been in space for a few hundred years. Their technology is crude metal and chemical rockets. Around the command center, other Kitharan officers watched the tactical displays with interest rather than concern. The human ship was barely visible on their sensors, a tiny dot moving toward their massive formation. Their own ships were works of art and science, grown from modified sea creatures over decades of careful bioengineering. Each vessel was alive, capable of healing damage and adapting to new threats. The smallest ship in the Kitharan fleet was the escort vessel Slicer of Worlds, and it was still twice the size of the approaching human craft. The largest ships were the battle carriers, each one capable of housing thousands of fighters and equipped with plasma cannons that could melt asteroids. Zekthis counted his assets with satisfaction. 300 ships against one. It would not even qualify as a proper battle. "Sir, we are receiving detailed scans of the human vessel now," the sensor operator announced. She was young for a fleet officer, barely past her first molting, but her 4 eyes were sharp and her reflexes quick. "Display the results," Zekthis ordered. A 3-dimensional image of the human ship appeared in the center of the command chamber. The hologram showed a crude metal vessel with angular surfaces and primitive chemical thrusters. The hull appeared to be made of simple iron and steel alloys, materials that Kitharan children used to build toys. There were no visible energy weapons, no plasma conduits, no biomechanical systems. "Is this truly all they have brought?" Zekthis asked, incredulous. "One ship with metal armor and no energy weapons?" "The scans show some unknown systems, Admiral," the sensor operator replied carefully. "Their hull appears thicker than normal for a vessel of this size. There are also some strange energy signatures we cannot identify." Zekthis waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Probably their primitive reactor leaking radiation. These humans have not learned to properly contain their power systems." In truth, the sensor readings from the human ship were confusing. The Kitharan scanning systems were designed to analyze biomechanical vessels and standard energy weapons. The Defiance was showing up as a collection of dense metals and unknown energy patterns. But Zekthis had seen many different types of ships in his long career. Every species thought their technology was special until they faced the might of the hegemony. "Fleet positions, Admiral," his tactical officer reported. "All vessels are in defensive formation around the planet. Fighters are launched and ready. Point defense systems are active." Zekthis looked at the tactical display showing his fleet's arrangement. The ships were positioned in 3 defensive rings around Kepler 438b. The outer ring consisted of fast attack vessels and fighters. The middle ring held the main battleships with their heavy plasma cannons. The inner ring protected the planet itself with the largest vessels, including his own flagship Dot. It was a formation designed to stop an entire enemy fleet, not a single small ship. But Zekthis believed in thorough preparation. Better to use overwhelming force than to risk any casualties from primitive weapons. "Time until the human vessel reaches weapons range?" he asked. 12 minutes at their current speed, Admiral." Zekthis considered his options. He could destroy the human ship now with long-range missiles, but that would rob his crews of combat experience. Young officers needed to see battle to truly understand their duty to the hegemony. Besides, the humans might surrender once they realized how hopeless their situation was. "Open a final communication channel to the human vessel," he ordered. The main viewing membrane switched to show the bridge of the human ship. Zekthis studied the alien creatures with interest. They were bipedal mammals with soft skin and no natural weapons. The female who appeared to be their leader stood calmly in front of what looked like primitive electronic displays. She showed no fear, which Zekthis found curious. "Human Commander, Zekthis spoke in their crude language. I am Admiral Zekthis of the Kitharan Hegemony. You are facing 300 warships with advanced weapons and shields. Your single vessel cannot possibly survive. Surrender now, and your death will be quick. The human female looked directly at him through the screen. Her eyes were small compared to Kitharan eyes, but they seemed to hold an intensity that made Zekthis uncomfortable. She did not speak. She simply stared at him for several seconds, then reached over and cut the communication. Arrogant primitives. Zekthis muttered, Very well. If they wish to die fighting, we shall accommodate them. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare a demonstration. Fire one plasma bolt from the secondary battery. Aim to disable their engines, not destroy them. Completely. Perhaps seeing our power will convince them to surrender. Yes, Admiral. The Devourer of Stars turned slightly, bringing its secondary weapons to bear on the approaching human vessel. Biomechanical systems hummed as the ship generated power. For its plasma cannons, these weapons had destroyed hundreds of enemy vessels over the years. They fired superheated matter at nearly the speed of light, capable of melting through any known armor. Firing plasma bolt, the weapons officer announced. A brilliant green beam lanced out from the Kitharan flagship, crossing the distance to the human ship in seconds. Zekthis watched the tactical display, expecting to see the human vessels. Engines explode or its hull breach. Instead, something impossible happened. The plasma bolt struck the human ship's hull and simply disappeared. There was no explosion, no damage, no effect at all. The beam seemed to spread across the metal surface and fade away like water soaking into sand. What happened? Zekthis demanded. Did we miss? No, sir, the weapons officer replied, her voice confused. Direct hit on the target's hull. But there appears to be no damage. Impossible. Run a diagnostic on the plasma cannon. Weapon systems show normal function, Admiral. The plasma bolt fired correctly. Zekthis stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In 60 years of combat, he had never seen any material that could simply absorb a plasma bolt without effect. Every known metal would melt. Every known energy shield would overload. But the human ship continued moving toward his fleet as if nothing had happened. Sir, the sensor operator called out urgently. The human vessel is changing course. They are no longer heading directly for the planet. Show me. The tactical display updated to show the human ship's new trajectory. Instead of continuing straight toward the fleet's center, it was moving to approach from an angle. The course change was subtle but deliberate. They are trying to avoid our main weapons, Zekthis realized. Fire again. Full power this time. Yes, Admiral. Another plasma bolt fired from the Kitharan flagship, this one with enough power to destroy a small moon. Again, the green beam struck the human vessel. Again, it had no effect whatsoever. Around the command center. Kitharan officers began to murmur. Nervously. This was beyond their experience. Nothing could survive direct hits from their most powerful weapons. Admiral, the communications officer said quietly, the other fleet commanders are requesting orders. Zekthis looked at the approaching human ship with new eyes. Suddenly, it did not look so small and harmless. Suddenly, he began to wonder what other surprises these primitive humans might have hidden in their crude metal hull. Signal the fleet, he ordered. All ships target the human vessel. Prepare for full offensive action. But even as he gave the order, Zekthis felt something he had not experienced in decades of conquest. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Zekthis felt afraid. Captain Elena Vasquez felt the ship shake slightly as another plasma bolt struck their hull, the third one in 5 minutes. She watched the damage display on her screen show nothing but green lights. The experimental armor was working perfectly, just as Dr. Foster had promised it would. Captain, The aliens are getting frustrated, Lieutenant Commander Chun reported from her weapons station. They're firing everything they have at us now. 16 different ships have targeted us in the last 2 minutes. Elena nodded calmly. The Defiance continued its steady approach toward the alien fleet, absorbing energy weapon after energy weapon without taking any damage. The hull armor was a composite material that Earth's best scientists had spent 20 years developing. It could absorb and disperse energy attacks by spreading the heat across the entire ship's structure. The aliens had never seen anything like it because they had never needed to. Every other species in the galaxy used energy shields that could be overloaded. Humans had taken a different approach. Instead of trying to deflect energy, they had learned to absorb it. Time to optimal firing position? Elena asked. 3 minutes, Captain. Navigation Officer Park replied. Elena stood up from her command chair and walked to the tactical display in the center of the bridge. The holographic image showed the positions of all 300 alien ships. They were arranged in defensive rings around the planet, exactly as human intelligence had predicted. The Kitherans always used the same formation when defending a conquered world. Sarah, are you ready? Elena asked. Her weapons officer Chun looked up from her console with a fierce smile. The railgun has been charged for 10 minutes, Captain. Tungsten projectile loaded and ready. Targeting computer has firing solutions for the entire enemy fleet. Elena studied the tactical display more carefully. The alien ships were beautiful in their own way. The biomechanical vessels pulsed with different colors of light, and some of them had organic shapes that reminded Elena of deep-sea creatures from Earth's oceans. It was almost a shame that she was about to destroy them. But then she thought about the 50,000 human colonists trapped on the planet below. Men, women, and children who had been forced to work in the mines for 8 months. Families separated and treated like animals by creatures who considered humans too primitive to have rights. Target the flagship first, Elena ordered. The big one in the center of their formation. Aye, Captain. Target locked. Elena took a deep breath. Everything humanity had worked for over the past 2 centuries was about to be decided in the next few minutes. If the Defiance failed, Earth would face invasion within a year. If it succeeded, the galaxy would finally understand that humans were not to be underestimated. Fire, Elena said quietly. The railgun fired with almost no sound. There was just a slight vibration through the ship's hull as magnetic fields accelerated a tungsten projectile to 30% of light speed. The projectile was only 10 centimeters long and 5 centimeters wide, but it carried more kinetic energy than most nuclear weapons. Elena watched the tactical display as a red dot appeared, moving faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. The projectile covered the distance to the enemy flagship in less than 2 seconds. The tungsten rod hit the Devourer of Stars exactly where Chun had aimed it. The bioship's living hull offered no resistance to the relativistic impact. The projectile punched through the front of the vessel and out the back, creating a perfectly round hole 3 meters wide. But that was not the end of it. The projectile continued traveling in a straight line through space, hitting 2 more alien ships that happened to be positioned behind the flagship. The second ship, a heavy cruiser, simply exploded when the tungsten rod passed through its reactor core. The third ship, a smaller escort vessel, was cut completely in half. 3 ships destroyed with 1 shot. On the bridge of the Defiance, Elena's crew watched in silent satisfaction as the alien flagship began to break apart. The bioship's living systems were trying to seal the massive wound, but the damage was too severe. Green fluid leaked into space as the vessel's organic structure collapsed. Target destroyed, Captain, Chun reported, and we got 2 bonus kills. Elena looked at the tactical display and saw chaos spreading through the alien fleet. Ships were breaking formation, some trying to retreat, while others moved forward to attack. The perfect defensive rings were falling apart as alien commanders tried to understand what had just happened. Communications. What are the aliens saying now? Elena asked. Williams listened to his headphones for a moment, then looked up with a grin. They're screaming, Captain. Complete panic. They can't understand how we destroyed their flagship. Some of them are talking about retreat. Not yet, Elena said. We're just getting started. Sarah, rotate the ship. Show them our broadside. The Defiance began to turn slowly, revealing the weapon ports that ran along its entire length. The ship had been designed like an old Earth battleship, with multiple gun positions on both sides. But instead of chemical cannons, it carried missile launchers loaded with the deadliest weapons humanity had ever created. Missile batteries ready, Captain, Sean announced. All tubes loaded with smart munitions. Elena studied the alien formation. On the tactical display, the ships were still bunched together, making perfect targets for area effect weapons. The aliens had never developed proper anti-missile defenses because most galactic species used energy weapons in space combat. Missiles were considered primitive and unreliable. Humans had spent 200 years proving that assumption wrong. Fire all missile batteries, Elena ordered. Full spread across their entire fleet. The Defiance erupted with light as hundreds of missile ports opened along its hull. Streams of projectiles shot out into space, each one following a different trajectory toward the enemy fleet. The missiles were not simple explosive devices. Each one carried its own computer brain, programmed with artificial intelligence developed from Earth's military networks. Elena watched the tactical display as the missile swarm spread out across space like a cloud of angry insects. Some missiles headed straight for their targets. Others took wide curving paths to attack from unexpected angles. Still, others flew past the alien fleet entirely, then turned around to attack from behind. The alien point defense systems tried to respond. Energy beams lanced out from hundreds of ships, trying to intercept the incoming missiles. But the alien computers had been designed to track energy weapons and plasma bolts, not small fast-moving objects following unpredictable paths. The first missiles reached their targets 30 seconds after launch. Each one carried a different type of warhead, making it impossible for the alien crews to know what was coming. Some exploded with nuclear fire, others released electromagnetic pulses that shut down biomechanical systems. A few carried simple kinetic penetrators that punched holes through hulls like the railgun projectile. Just smaller and slower. Elena counted 15 alien ships destroyed in the first wave of impacts, then 20, then 30. The tactical display began to look like a fireworks show as explosions bloomed throughout the enemy fleet. Second wave incoming, Sean reported. This batch is carrying the special packages, Elena nodded. The special packages were Dr. Foster's personal invention. Missiles that released clouds of microscopic machines designed to interfere with biomechanical systems. The nanobots could not destroy a ship by themselves, but they could cause organic hulls to develop infections and bioreactors to malfunction. The second wave of missiles reached the alien fleet and began releasing their payloads. Elena watched. Alien ships start to slow down as their living systems became sick. Some vessels began changing color as infections spread through their hulls. Others simply stopped moving as their bioreactors shut down. In less than 5 minutes, the Defiance had destroyed or disabled over 80 enemy ships. The perfect alien formation had become a scattered mess of burning wreckage and confused survivors. Captain, Williams called out urgently. We're receiving surrender signals from multiple alien ships. They want to negotiate. Elena looked at the tactical display. There were still over 200 enemy vessels left, more than enough to destroy the Defiance if they could organize themselves properly. But the alien fleet was in complete chaos. Ships were fleeing in all directions. Commanders were arguing with each other over the communication channels. "No negotiations," Helena said firmly. "We finished this now. Sarah, prepare the third wave." The galaxy was about to learn that when humans went to war, they did not stop until they won. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Representatives from 47 different species filled the great chamber on the neutral world of Nexus Prime, their voices creating a symphony of panic in dozens of languages. The massive holographic display at the center of the room showed real-time footage from the battle at Kepler 438b, transmitted by automated monitoring stations throughout that sector of space. Ambassador Veltar of the Andromedian Trade Federation watched the display with all 6 of his eyes wide in shock. His species had been spacefaring for over 10,000 years, and he had never seen combat like this. The human vessel moved through the Kitharan fleet like a predator among prey, destroying ships faster than his mind could process. "This is impossible," declared High Counselor Jexini of the Crystal Collective. Her crystalline body rang like a bell as she spoke, betraying her emotional distress. "No single vessel can defeat an entire Kitharan battle fleet. The humans must have developed some kind of superweapon." "Look at the energy readings," Ambassador Veltar said, his tentacles pointing at the technical data scrolling beside the battle. "Footage. Their weapons are not using energy at all. They are throwing metal objects at incredible speed." The idea seemed absurd to most of the council members. Kinetic weapons were considered primitive technology, something that developing civilizations used before they learned to harness plasma and energy fields. Advanced species had abandoned such crude methods thousands of years ago, but the results spoke for themselves. As the council watched, another wave of human missiles reached the Kitharan fleet. The projectiles moved in ways that defied all standard military doctrine. Instead of flying in straight lines like normal missiles, these weapons twisted and turned through space like living creatures. Some split apart into smaller pieces that attacked different targets. Others seemed to communicate with each other, coordinating their attacks in real time. "How are they controlling so many missiles at once?" asked General Crick Sock of the Hegemony Defense Force. His insectoid features were tense with concentration as he studied the tactical information. "Our computers can barely track a dozen targets simultaneously. The humans are managing hundreds." Ambassador Veltar had been studying human civilization for 3 standard years. Ever since first contact, protocols had been established. Most galactic species considered humans to be an interesting but primitive race, worth trading with, but not worth taking seriously as a military power. That assessment was clearly wrong. Our intelligence reports suggested that humans had developed advanced computer systems, Veltar said slowly. Their artificial intelligence technology may be more sophisticated than we realized. On the display, the human warship fired its main weapon again. Another tungsten projectile shot across space at relativistic speed, punching through a Kitharan heavy cruiser and continuing to destroy 2 more ships behind it. The precision was incredible. The human gunners were hitting targets at distances where most species would need energy weapons to be effective. "They are using their ship like an ancient ballista," observed Elder Myron of the Academic Collective. Her ancient species had studied military history for millennia, and she recognized the tactical principles at work. "But with technology that makes it deadlier than any energy weapon we know." The council chamber fell silent as they watched the Kitharan fleet continue to fall apart. Ships that had survived the missile barrages were fleeing in all directions, abandoning their defensive formation around the planet. The few vessels that remained to fight were being systematically destroyed by precise railgun shots and swarms of intelligent missiles. Where did they develop these technologies? High Counselor Jexini demanded. "Our trade missions to Earth reported seeing only basic chemical rockets and primitive nuclear reactors." Ambassador Veltar checked his data. Files. Human civilization had been isolated from the galactic community for most of its development. While other species had shared technology and military doctrine through trade and warfare, humans had been forced to innovate on their own. Apparently, that isolation had led them to develop solutions that no one else had considered. Their whole world has been at war with itself for most of their recorded history, Veltar explained. They have been developing military technology continuously for thousands of years. While we perfected energy weapons and biomechanical systems, they perfected the art of throwing objects at high speed. The implications were staggering. Every major galactic power had assumed that humans would eventually adopt standard energy-based military technology as they advanced. Instead, they had taken their primitive kinetic weapons and refined them to a level of sophistication that surpassed anything in known space. "Look at this," General Crixox said, pointing to a new set of data appearing on the display. "Our deep space sensors are detecting similar energy signatures in the Sol system. The humans have more ships like this one." The council members exchanged worried glances. If the human homeworld possessed a fleet of vessels with capabilities similar to the ship destroying the Kithran forces, then the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted dramatically. "How many ships?" High Counselor Jexini asked. "Unknown," General Crixox replied. "Our sensors can only detect the energy signatures, not exact numbers. But preliminary readings suggest at least a dozen vessels with similar characteristics." Ambassador Veltar felt his skin change color as stress hormones flooded his system. His species had been planning to establish a more favorable trade relationship with Earth, one that would give the Andromedian Federation access to human mineral resources. If humans possessed this level of military capability, such negotiations would need to take a very different approach. "We need to consider the strategic implications," Elder Myron said gravely. "If humans can destroy Kithran fleets with single ships, what does that mean for galactic security?" The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The Kithran hegemony was one of the three major military powers in the galaxy, along with the Andromedian Federation and the Crystal Collective. Their bioships were considered nearly invincible, capable of healing damage and adapting to new threats. The fact that human weapons could simply punch through their hulls without any apparent resistance suggested that current military doctrine was obsolete. "The battle is ending," announced the technical officer monitoring the communications. "Array, the remaining Kithran ships are broadcasting full surrender. The human vessel has stopped firing." The main display switched to show the aftermath of the battle. Where the proud Kithran fleet had once floated in perfect formation, now only scattered debris and a handful of damaged ships remained. The human warship sat motionless in space, its hull still unmarked despite absorbing hundreds of energy weapon hits during the fight. "Total Kithran losses appear to be over 90%, the technical officer continued. "Estimated time for the complete engagement was 18 minutes. 18 minutes. An entire Kithran battle fleet had been destroyed in less time than it took most council sessions to reach a preliminary vote on minor trade disputes. "We need to contact Earth immediately," Ambassador Veltar said, "before they decide that the rest of us are also threats to be eliminated." High Counselor Jexini's crystalline body rang with nervous energy. "What do we offer them? What does a species with this level of military power want from us?" "Trade partnerships," Elder Myron suggested. "Technology exchange. Mutual defense. Agreements. They do not need our protection," General Crixox pointed out grimly. "And our technology may be less advanced than theirs in key areas." Ambassador Veltar was already composing a message to his government. The Andromedian Federation needed to completely revise its relationship with human civilization. Every major power in the galaxy would need to do the same. On the display, human warship began moving toward the planet where the colonists were held. Its mission was not yet complete. But the galaxy had already seen enough to understand that everything had changed. The age of human military dominance had begun with a single shot from a single ship. Now the question was what humanity would do with the power they had just revealed to the universe. Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the cargo bay of the Defiance, watching as the last group of rescued colonists came aboard. The children looked tired and scared, clinging to their parents as they walked up the shuttle ramp. Many of the adults bore scars from 8 months of forced labor in the alien mines. But they were alive, and they were free. A young girl, maybe 7 years old, stopped in front of Elena and looked up at her with wide brown eyes. "Are you the captain who saved us?" she asked in a small voice. Elena knelt down to the girl's level and smiled. "My crew and I helped. But you and your families were very brave too. You survived until we could get here." The girl nodded seriously, then threw her arms around Elena's neck in a quick hug before running to catch up with her mother. Dr. Foster approached Elena as the last shuttle finished unloading. His usually calm face showed exhaustion mixed with satisfaction. The scientist had spent the past 3 hours helping treat injured colonists in the ship's medical bay. Final count is 47,612 survivors, Foster reported. We lost about 2,000 people during the occupation, most from poor working conditions and inadequate medical care. Elena felt anger flash through her again. 2,000 dead because an alien species had decided humans were too primitive to deserve basic rights. She was glad the Kithran fleet was nothing but debris floating in space. "How are our weapon systems?" she asked. Railgun performed perfectly. Missile systems exceeded all expectations. The smart munitions adapted to enemy countermeasures better than our best simulations predicted. Foster paused, then added quietly, "We changed more than just this battle today, Captain. We changed everything." Elena walked to the cargo bay's main viewport and looked out at the planet below. Kepler 438b was free again, its human colonies no longer under alien control. But Foster was right. What happened here would echo across the entire galaxy. She activated her communication device and opened a channel to Earth. The signal would take 20 minutes to reach home, but she wanted the government to hear her report directly from her. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez, reporting from Kepler 438b. Mission accomplished. The Kithran fleet has been destroyed with total casualties, estimated at 97%. All surviving human colonists have been rescued. The Defiance took no significant damage during the engagement." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "Earth Command should know that our actions here have been observed by multiple galactic powers. We are receiving communication requests from over 30 different species. The galaxy now knows what human military technology can accomplish." Elena closed the channel and walked back toward the bridge. The corridors of the Defiance buzzed with activity as her crew helped settle the rescued colonists into temporary quarters. The ship had been designed primarily as a warship, but it could house several thousand people for short periods. On the bridge, Lieutenant Commander Chun was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Her console displayed incoming messages from dozens of different worlds, all wanting to establish new diplomatic relationships with Earth. "Captain, we're getting priority signals from the Andromedian Trade Federation, the Crystal Collective, and at least 15 other major powers," Chun reported. "They all want to negotiate new treaties. Any threats?" Elena asked. "None so far. Everyone seems very interested in friendship and mutual cooperation all of a sudden." Elena almost smiled. Before today, most galactic species had treated humans as interesting but irrelevant newcomers. Now they were all rushing to establish friendly relationships with the species that had just demonstrated the ability to destroy entire fleets. Navigation Officer Park looked up from his station. Captain, we're receiving an official communication from the Galactic Council on Nexus Prime. They're requesting that Earth send representatives to discuss humanity's membership in the galactic community. That was significant. For 200 years, Earth had been trying to gain recognition as a civilized species worthy of full galactic citizenship. The Council had always delayed, claiming that humans needed more time to develop proper spacefaring technology and peaceful intentions. Apparently, demonstrating the ability to destroy anyone who threatened them was sufficient proof of both. Any word from the Kitharan government? Elena asked. Communications Officer Williams checked his displays. Yes, Captain. The Hegemony High Command is requesting immediate peace negotiations. They're offering to pay reparations for the colonists and formally recognize human territorial claims. Elena felt a grim satisfaction. The same aliens who had laughed at human surrender demands 18 hours ago were now begging for mercy. But she was not interested in revenge. She was interested in making sure this never happened again. Send a message to the Kitharan government, she ordered. Tell them that Earth will consider peace negotiations, but only after they release all prisoners of other species currently held in their territory. Williams looked surprised. Captain, they're holding prisoners from at least a dozen different races. That could be millions of people. Then they have a lot of work to do, Elena replied firmly. The Defiance had not just won a battle. It had demonstrated to the galaxy that humans would not tolerate the enslavement of any sentient species. If the major powers wanted peace with Earth, they would need to start treating other races with basic dignity. Dr. Foster returned to the bridge, carrying a datapad with preliminary analysis of the battle. Captain, I've been reviewing the sensor logs from our weapon impacts. The results are even better than we hoped. How so? Our railgun projectiles maintained full effectiveness and maximum range. The missile AI systems learned and adapted during combat faster than predicted. Most importantly, none of our weapons showed any signs of degraded performance over extended use. Foster paused and looked around the bridge. We designed these systems to fight a single major engagement. But the data suggests they could sustain operations for weeks or even months without significant maintenance. Elena understood the implication. The Defiance was not just a powerful warship. It was a sustainable military platform that could project human power across multiple star systems indefinitely. A new message appeared on the communication display. Elena read it with interest. The message was from Admiral Sarah Chon's sister, Captain Lisa Chun of the Earth Defense Force. Elena, congratulations on your victory. Thought you should know that 6 more ships of the Defiance class launched from Luna shipyards this morning. Earth Command is accelerating the fleet construction schedule. We should have 20 warships ready within 6 months. Elena felt a chill of anticipation. The Defiance had been intended as a prototype, a proof of a VHU, concept for human military technology. Now Earth was building an entire fleet of these vessels. Captain, Williams called out urgently. We're receiving a massive data burst from Earth. It looks like intelligence reports on major galactic powers. The information that appeared on Elena's screen was staggering. Earth's intelligence services had been monitoring galactic communications for years, gathering information about alien military capabilities, territorial disputes, and ongoing conflicts. What Elena saw was a galaxy in constant tension, with dozens of species oppressed by more powerful neighbors. The Kitharan hegemony was not the only empire that used slave labor. The Andromedian Federation exploited primitive worlds for raw materials. The Crystal Collective had been expanding into neutral territory for decades. Even species that claimed to be peaceful were involved in territorial disputes and resource wars. Elena realized that what happened at Kepler 438b was just the beginning. Earth now had the military power to enforce justice across the galaxy, and the political situation demanded that they use it. "Set course for Earth," she ordered. "Maximum speed." "Aye, Captain. Estimated time to Sol system is 4 days." Elena looked out at the stars and thought about the future. When the Defiance reached Earth, it would dock at Luna Station alongside the new warships being constructed there. Soon, humanity would have a fleet capable of projecting power across hundreds of star systems. The galaxy had awakened a sleeping giant, and that giant was about to reshape the balance of power among the stars. The age of human expansion had begun, and nothing would ever be the same.